Welcome, everybody, to a new episode of the Titan Business Builders podcast. And I'm really so excited for this episode because we have, I would say, a special guest on our show. It's Jamie Law. Hi, Jamie.
Hi, Stefan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my pleasure. And the reason that I say special is because, well, let me just read the introduction that I a little bit prepared through LinkedIn. And it says on LinkedIn, you are by now 27-year-old marketing CEO of a multi-million agency that sees diversity as more than a tick box exercise. The agency is London based, it's a growth agency, and it has grown over, well, 900% in just over 2 years. That's what it says. That's quite a growth. And
Yeah,
it's the name of the company, like a growth marketing agency. Well, you are the living proof of a growth company. So,
exactly.
Jamie, you're London based. Like, if we're talking about growth marketing and a growth agency, like, I think a lot of our viewers and a lot of our listeners are wondering, well, what exactly is a growth agency or growth marketing? What does that mean?
Well, that's a good question, and it's a question that we always get asked anytime we go to pitch. So I feel like I've got the answer perfectly rehearsed. So growth marketing is quite simply just the idea of gaining something positive for your business, whether that is clients, leads, customers, whatever it might be, in creative, cost-effective ways. So there's a lot of agencies out there that just do what like is known as like performance marketing, and that will just be like ads, like SEO, all of that jazz. And don't get me wrong, we use the same channels, but we use growth marketing strategies and tactics in order to get those channels performing even better. So where you might have, we have this with our clients every day. We had a client last week who we've been working with for 3 months, and we've decreased their cost per lead by 96% in 3 months.
Wow.
So that's the kind of thing that we do. We'll come up with new ways to acquire the same customers or even better customers, but we just do it in kind of cost-effective, creative solutions.
Wow. Well, that's something for sure. Then I can already understand why people love the company so much and yeah, love the work that you do for sure.
Thank
Um, in our podcast series, we always go back a little bit in time and we
you.
look at where it all started for the business owner. So, Jamie, tell me, like, where did you get the sense of entrepreneurship? Why did you start Monumental?
Um, the reason I started it was because I worked in a couple of kind of large companies and I worked in a couple of really small ones and everything in between. And what I found was that there wasn't really, marketing hadn't advanced. They were still treating, small businesses the same way they treated big businesses and scale ups. Like it just didn't make sense. So I just wanted to create something that really understood what a startup needs. It doesn't need awareness. It doesn't need brand engagement. It needs money. It needs sales. It needs leads, because that's how they're going to get, their next round of investment, by saying they've got 100,000 downloads, not 100,000 views. So I just wanted something that was more hardcore, and I couldn't find that. So I thought, let me create something. And then the other side of it was that I grew up in the Middle East, as where it's illegal to be gay. And I
Wow.
just found the whole experience really quite unpleasant. And when I came back to the UK, I loved it here in terms of openness, but I just felt like there was a real lack of representation in the marketing industry, of diversity of all sorts. And, in some of my own experiences, being gay had held me back, like the usual things of like, oh, you're not authoritative enough, as in you're too camp to do this or whatever. So I thought, actually, let me just create something with diversity from the very, very, very start. So then it doesn't become a thing that 3 years down the line you have to like write a report about and an action list. Like almost in a way, I wanted to create the social experiment of, if we start with diversity, what does that mean? What impacts does it have? And, apart from the growth that we ourselves have had, like the clients that we work with love that part of us, love that we bring all these different viewpoints and ideas. But most importantly, the people that work here love it because there's this kind of crazy close knit community sense about working here because we're all minorities in our own way. We all come from very different parts of the world, of life, or religion, or whatever it might be. So there's this kind of constant engagement that is just really, really natural. So yeah, that's the two reasons really that I started Monumental.
Wow, okay. So coming from the Middle East, where, yeah, indeed, it's really a harsh environment to grow up. How long were you there? Like, when did you move back to London?
So I did 5 years there, so 13 to 18.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Not the most ideal
Yeah.
years, I'll tell you that. Yeah, so 13 to 18, 5 years in the Middle East. And yeah, I mean, it's a weird one because it's definitely more open than people think. But it's all this sort of not underground, but it's kind of, I mean, one of my favorite kind of LGBT venues is actually in the Middle East. But then, in day-to-day life, it's seen as this bad thing. And if you tell the wrong person, you get deported. And it's really odd to try and understand where you sit within that space, really.
Cool, cool, cool. Well, coming from the Middle East towards London and then building your own company, there's not a lot of people that will have done that before, right? And doing it, yeah, in a way that it's based on diversity. Like, how did that go in terms of growth? Like, was that a challenge to get people on board where they already knew, like, this is really about diversity as well? Or do you find it even like an advantage?
Um, I think definitely both. It's had its advantages, it's had its disadvantages. At the start, it was difficult to get people thinking the way we thought and
Yeah.
to really, and a lot of the time it was a barrier internally of like,
Mm.
well, we don't have a huge list of clients that want to work with us because we're like 20 minutes old. So if someone approaches us that doesn't kind of align with our culture, how do we deal with it? So from the very start, we started saying no to clients that didn't share the same values as us because we'd want to help people that are going to support people like us, not otherwise. So at the beginning, it was challenging to think, okay, like, this is completely bootstrapped. We have no investment. And I'm saying no to money because of this kind of purpose thing. So that was hard. There was also times that we would go into a pitch and people would be like, wait, who the hell are you? Like, this doesn't look like a normal, straight white marketing agency. So there was some, culture shocks at the start. Whereas now I think it's definitely a positive because, people know us as that. We're known to be the fintech go-to for growth. And people know that we are about diversity. They know that we're driven by our purpose, our values. So when we pitch, they know that we're pitching for more than just the money. We know that you align with us from a value perspective. And I think brands really appreciate that really kind of honest way of working.
Mm. Yeah, that must be indeed hard when you get started with a company and you're already saying no to
Yeah.
potential customers. I think many business owners would think like, oh my God, no, let's work with those customers already.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a respect to you. I mean, if you have done that from the beginning,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And
And to be honest, it's given us also really great things because even the case studies we have from the first 6 months in business are all still completely reliable and valuable and still relevant to this day.
mm,
Like one of our first ever clients was like an Islamic social media app that wanted to build a community of around Islam. And I'm way more excited to talk about that than this other company that approached me that was like a very straight white Christian dating app. And I was like, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. So, even 4 years on, I can still talk about Lebec, the client that we did work with. So it has paid off in the long run, in short.
yeah, I guess in the marketing industry, a lot of people would have think that you are a little bit crazy to do it like that. But you've proved
Yeah.
them wrong. I mean, you've grown so much in such a little period of time. But I'm guessing it's just more than just a diversity play here. It's also about the result, as you have shown, and the way that you do things, the way that you do marketing. What really makes it so unique, besides the things that you already have said? Share us some secrets about Monumental that makes it so special.
Um, I think there's a number of things we do which people in the industry are a bit like, really? So, simple example of also why we're quite as successful as we are, we don't do contracts. So, none of our clients are tied to us. Most other agencies tie their clients into 12 to 24-month contracts. With us, you just have to sign something that says you'll work with us for 3 months and then you can cancel at any time after that. Which is very attractive, especially in the space that we work in, because we work with tech and we work with fintech. So it's like high growth, really fast moving. And it also puts our money where our mouth is. Like, if we can't make you successful, don't pay us. Like, there's no point, like, don't do it. So again, the kind of goes back to the kind of honesty and transparency of it all. And then also we're just all we care about is results. And I think very few people can argue with that. Like, yes, sure, you can sell a pretty video to someone, and I'm sure it will be really important. And obviously, brand is very important in all of that. But at the end of the day, what we do is we get downloads, we get customers, we get leads. And it's hard to argue with that.
Yeah, the vanity metrics is cute to look at, but at the end of the day, people like business owners, if they do marketing, they care about the money, they care about the sales that they're getting from the marketing. Otherwise, why are you doing it?
Yeah,
Something that I often have to repeat to people within technology, like, look, you're a business owner, you're not a content creator, right? So
exactly.
that is really important distinction between those two. Even if they feel like, oh my God, they're all making such cute reels and they get so much views. But I'm like, yeah, but how many sales are they getting through that, right? You don't know. They
No.
could be a lot, but could also be zero. Now we have a question here from Javier, and let's put that on here.
Yeah, perfect.
Are you bonding into inbound or only growth?
We also do inbound. And well, inbound is something that we use for kind of content marketing, especially. So there's tactics that we use within inbound marketing that we would classify as growth tactics. So for example, I think even today on our Instagram, we did something on like SEO avalanche, which looks at kind of working within the kind of, well, within Google's tiers as a way to kind of build authority in really, really popular search queries. So I would say that predominant work that we do that is classed as growth naturally is inbound, because it's all about kind of serving an existing demand. So yeah, that's the yes to that question, basically.
Thanks for the question, Javier. If you have any other questions, please let us know. But I'm really interested to know, like, if today you see a startup right in front of you and you really want to work with you, and they're basically also starting as a bootstrap business, like how can you try to convince them to justify the investment into that growth marketing that you're doing for them?
Mhm.
What would be a good selling point to do it immediately instead of just waiting until they get first couple of sales?
Well, I think it's important to understand what's going to be valuable to them, and realistically like what their runway is, because there's
Mm,
no point in like selling marketing if someone really can't afford it, because a large
mm,
part of growth marketing is testing. Not everything we do always works out. So, not every campaign we put out always gets you the sale, and so on. But that's the nature of what you sign up to with growth. And I've had kind of experiences in the past with bootstrap businesses where, they asked me to work on commission, or they asked my team to work on commission. And we're not salespeople, we're marketeers. And there's a
yeah,
big difference between that. So with a lot of bootstrap businesses, I kind of have to do a lot of expectation management in terms of like, yes, marketing does work, but it's not sales. So, anything we do has a bit of a lead up period. That's why we report on a lot of things by quarter, because in week one, when you have no data, you have no followers, you have no traffic, no authority, yes, we're going to be setting stuff up and we're going to be working towards it, but what realistically are we going to achieve in that? Probably not much. So I always have to do a bit of expectation management, and I would always recommend to them to commit to something that feels comfortable to them. So like not to overspend with marketing. And if they are very much at the start, I would usually put them onto something that is more holistic first, and probably something that we don't offer. Again, because I'd rather work in an honest way and say, actually, everything you need is not we can't deliver that. We're specialists in what we do, and we can help you one day once you have everything set up, but I'm not having my team build like CRM campaigns. That's not what we do. So what I would usually do in that case is pass them on to like either a freelancer or help them write a brief for something that's going to be more holistic. Because I think the important thing is knowing when to turn on like the growth marketing efforts. And that's when you have like a clear set goal and a clear set budget, because then we work backwards from there.
That's really good. That's really good. Because I feel like marketing is such a huge part of any kind of business. Either whether you're starting out or you're not starting out, it has to be there. You have to have a strategy, not just spraying and praying, like they say, right? It has to be something that actually results into something. Now, looking at the growth that you have had and the success within London or within the UK, is your client base worldwide? Are you finding more customers in Europe? Is the same way that you're doing marketing valid across the world?
That's a really good question. Short answer, yes. It is valid anywhere you do it, because it's not, and it's valid for whatever you do it for. So a lot of agencies are usually like industry specific, whereas we don't believe in that, because we're like tactic specific. We're growth marketing. So it's kind of in a different way. And then in terms of clients, we have clients in China, like we have clients in the US, in South America, in Canada, in the UK. We also have clients in Germany, Holland.
Okay.
And we're pretty spread out.
Yeah. How do you navigate the fact of being how should I say, a queer-owned business? Is that coming up a lot, or is it immediately from the first moment that you get in touch with people like, this is a diversity-run company and I'm part of the LGBTQ plus community, or is that absolutely no factor at all?
I think it would be hard to not find the answer to that for anyone that speaks to us. Like, I think even if you just type in my name, it comes up with like LGBT, gay, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And the moment you land on Monumental's page, it's purpose driven. If you look at our, alliances, and it's quite easy to understand like where our values are. We've been working with Pride in Edinburgh for 5 years, completely pro bono. We support events and companies and charities in London, such as like Black Women in Tech, all of these kind of community groups. So it's quite easy for people to see where we're aligned to. And I guess it also works quite well at sifting out the people that don't like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it does help.
Yeah, 100%. Do you think it's important to put more of the LGBTQ plus business owners in the spotlight? Do you find it easy to connect with others that are doing more or less the same as what you're doing?
I think there's a huge missed opportunity, because I think, and I've actually spoken to an LGBT magazine about this recently, and I don't understand why a lot of LGBT media is kind of focused on really mainstream things. Like, for example, there's like 16 articles a day about who won RuPaul's Drag Race 3 years ago, but there isn't like a single article about, I don't know, a lesbian woman who's just secured funding, or a gay man who's just sold his company. Like, I think a lot of LGBT media tailors to one very specific audience. And there's definitely other audiences and probably more lucrative audiences, I might be wrong, that would probably be more engaged and more attracted to information and content that is more reflective of the community as a whole, not just as, whatever you see on TV.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it seems like today all has to be mainstream, even within our own community. Everything has to be mainstream because, like, we're free now almost. While that also means that we're almost neglecting our own uniqueness, right?
Yeah.
And I find it really strange sometimes. Also, within what we do, we help LGBTQ plus business owners grow their business. And sometimes we get the reply of, yeah, but is that really needed to do it only for the LGBTQ plus community?
Mhm.
In a way, like, okay, yes and no. I say yes because we still want to have that sense of community, being surrounded with like-minded people. And on the other hand, it's not about trying to craft our own space or trying to fight other people, right? It's just having a community around us. And that's
Yeah,
what I find really important. And that's where the focus should be on more and more these days.
I
Do you
agree.
think, Jamie, do you think that marketing within an LGBTQ plus own business has to be also more directed towards the values of the business owner? Or should it be neglected? Or should it not be in there?
I guess it just depends how important those values are to the business. I mean, I obviously with a lot of the people we work with, they are diverse, and everyone's on a different scale of how much of their own diversity they want reflected in the way that their own companies are portrayed. Obviously, with us, the trick is not to look like a gay company because we're
Mm,
not that. Obviously, like not everyone in my team is gay. Not everyone
yeah.
is a gay white man, thankfully. Uh, so I think it's a tricky one. I think if you can align yourself to a cause or value that makes sense to you, then 100% like shout about it. For us, it's all about empowering minorities. Then, what those minorities are, we don't really care about because that's the whole point of it. But obviously, me being LGBT supports that message and kind of lives in the company because of that way. So
Mm,
yeah, I think it's a scale, and everyone will be more comfortable doing it in different ways. But I similar to what you were saying, like sticking together and building that community feel, like why not do it? You can share ideas. And the thing I do love about the LGBT community is that we really do support each other, I think, more than other community groups do. Just thinking of my own network of people that I've worked with or collaborated or helped out, and they're all LGBT, and we're all quite happy to do that for each other. And I think there's very few community groups that are that helpful and
mm.
open to others in the same spaces.
Yeah, makes sense totally. Yeah. The sense of community is so important. I talk about this a lot, even for just as a business, having your own community is so important. Do you see that also in a shift towards that kind of style of business model connected with the marketing, having a community around your business?
100%. And that's definitely something that we like to push a lot of. I think most brands always find it hard, especially if we're speaking to like the CEO or the founder, to really pinpoint, where does this really add value, or who does it add value for? Because most answers is everyone and everyone will love this, and I have no competitors, and they're often very, very wrong. So I think, outlining your audience and pinpointing, what value can I bring and what community can I build off the back of this only makes you stronger, not weaker. And I think, a lot of the times, definitely when we work directly with CEOs and stuff, they see it as a disadvantage. Well, they see it as a negative to have a
Mm.
specific group, as opposed to saying, oh, it's for everyone. And from a marketing point of view, that never actually works anyway. So we're doing them a favor by pushing them into a more community styled marketing approach.
Yeah, absolutely. A good idea for sure for a lot of companies out there that are listening here or viewing this. Now, Jamie, for the future, what does the future hold for Monumental? Sorry.
I think it's just, well, I know it's just going to be continued growth. We have a really exciting kind of growth plan in motion for our own kind of ideas of where we want to end up. We have recently kind of restructured, rebranded, and so it's been, well, 2021 was a very busy year, just kind of getting our house in order, and now we're just completely lined up in the way we look and the way we work and how we deliver the work to continue growing in that direction, which is really exciting. I'd love to bring it to the US, hence our kind of increased number of US clients at the moment, because my idea would be to, for me personally, I'd want to live half in London, half in New York. That would be my dream. So I'll see. We'll do this again in 2 years, Stefan, and then we can see.
Yeah. Well, I will hold you to that, and I will say even more. Like in 2 years from now, we will do this podcast in New York, in your office.
Perfect. Love it. Yes.
Yeah. No, but that's great. I mean, everybody sees the growth of Monumental, so this will happen for sure. It's just a matter of time, I'm pretty sure. But I always ask this question towards the end of our episode, but what does success mean for you, Jamie?
I guess for me, it's really around change. If I can see that, more people like me are getting promoted, they're sitting on, in boards at C-suite level, or, even just marketing is more diverse and it's, more reflective of who we are as a community, then I think that I would feel quite successful. And then if Monumental has had a big part in that, I'd feel even more successful.
That's a great answer. I want to thank you very much for being with us, Jamie. It was great to having you and hearing the growth, the stories, and the value that you brought about growth marketing as well. So I hope that you reach your goals and that we meet each other pretty soon in New York.
Amazing. Thank you so much again for having me, Stefan. This was awesome.
It was a pleasure. Have a nice day. I'll see you soon. And thank you, everybody, for watching or for listening to this podcast. If you have any questions for Jamie, please let us know. I will share actually the site here so people know where to find you. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but this is monumentalmarketing.co.uk. So if you want to grow your company with some decent marketing, go to Jamie.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.